don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the podcast that no one asked for. My name is Guy.
My name is Babs.
And no one asked for this. Today, we will be discussing the best movie I watched on March 16th between the hours of 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that is Tremors 5 Bloodlines. Because of no reason at all, we decided yesterday to do a Netflix party and do a group watch of a movie that none of us had ever seen before and was objectively less than awesome. And Tremors is the one we came up with. So let's gonna get right into it. The first thing we start out with is, of course, the Nobody Actually Cares category. Babs, do you have anything for that?
I think that no one actually cares about this movie. I don't have any stake to put in the ground here.
Nobody actually cares, and no one actually ever seen this movie.
In the coming weeks, more people may see it then.
I'll say, for me, I am if nothing else in this movie, I think I could call myself a fan of the character Burt Gummer. And I do not like that they implied that he would raw dog a random. Well, they didn't imply that. They basically said he raw dogged a random. And for a guy whose whole character is being over-prepared for everything because he's so paranoid, wouldn't wear a condom or second-guess sex with a stranger. He doesn't do drugs, so I don't know what that is, but my no one actually cares online outrage is Burt Gummer would not have raw dogged a random. Moving on. We're going to talk about the most memorable moment. There is so much to not remember about this movie, but Babs, what do you actually remember?
Okay, so this was very hard for me to come up with one because, as you said, I don't remember much of what I watched. I was either not paying attention or not entertained that much. But here's what I have, and this is going to give away the whole plot. But in the beginning-ish of the movie, when they get to South Africa, there's a little girl, and she's zapping the dirt to get the worms out. And that was pretty memorable, and that's the ultimate moment of how they get the graboids to come out of the...
Jamie Kennedy is Burt Gummer's son. For me, my most memorable moment, I narrowed it down to two. And it was between the cage scene and the dialogue.
Oh my goodness, there's so much peeing in this movie.
The dialogue of this movie is like, what if someone was trying to do a Fast and Furious movie but didn't have any famous actors and nobody was watching it? But all in all, I felt like that was too much of I was talking about too many different things in the movie. So for my most memorable moment, I went with the cage scene. So about a little over halfway through the movie, there's like the classic action movie twist where the guy that asked him to go on the mission is actually the bad guy.
No.
And he locks Burt in a cage, and then stuff just starts happening. So he gets down to his underwear, he's drinking and also bathing in his own pee, and he's filming this for some reason. And then he somehow summons a lion, and then the lion pees in his mouth / body. It's a whole thing. There's no way to describe the sequence. It's a man in a cage
going crazy,
just trying to survive. Is I don't know.
Question mark?
Yeah, a way of putting it. Doing what he can with what he had.
Which was pee. He had a lot of pee.
So
for someone who's being dehydrated, you would think he wouldn't have so much pee.
Yeah, it went from silly to gross and back to silly and back to gross like 6 times before he found his way out of that cage. But that is definitely the most memorable moment. Next up, we're going to talk about background bums or bosses. It was not easy to find a boss in this, but we will see. Babs, what did you come up with?
I'm sorry, but I didn't write it. I didn't think ahead for this one because I think that everything was a bum. There was nothing but bums. It was all bums. I was bummed in general.
Bosses is ridiculous for this movie. I also have a bum. And it is the guy who definitely dies, but talks so much shit about how bad he was, and he wore goggles. So there was this classic archetype from action team-ups where you're getting the team together, and there's always a guy that's like, I'm the badass guy. And he talks like he's so cool, and he shows off, and he puts everyone down, and he thinks he's the shit.
He's gonna die. And
you're like, yeah, that guy's definitely gonna die. Like, as he starts talking, you're like, well, he's not gonna make it. Like, that guy's never lived through any movie ever. It's one of the best people to ever do it.
Perlman?
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Ron Perlman is the best to ever be the badass guy who definitely is gonna die in an action movie. And, well, maybe in a B action movie. And this guy, whose name I don't know the character's name, I don't know the actor's name, it does not matter. He shows up on screen, says 3 things, and I'm like, yep, you're out of here. Like, I don't know if you're going to be the first to die, but you're definitely going to die.
If you were in a Royal Rumble, you would be the first to go over the ropes.
And that's why he is my background bum. Next up, special shout out. My special shout out is going to go to the director. I didn't write down his name because it's irrelevant, but I did look at his filmography, and for the last 8 years, he's been doing everything direct-to-video and or TV movie. But he has 20 credits. He's working, but nobody is seeing anything he's doing.
He's got a job.
And as a person that I wanted to be a director when I was younger, and I'm sure this guy did also. You never know. We all want to be Quentin Tarantino or Steven Spielberg, but sometimes you just end up directing Tremors 5. But you're working. So special shout out to a working director whose movies no one has seen. Who's your special shout out?
My special shout out is to bow and arrowing, the sport of bow and arrowing. Archery.
Well, this did come out around the time of the Hunger Games franchise. It was around that exact same time.
You have to be a hot lady bow and arrowing as well. It can't just be any hot lady, hot man, whatever the case may be. Your level of attractiveness must be on the upper end of the scale to also be bow and arrowing.
That's one of those things. Also, I'd like to give a tiny shout out to Jamie Kennedy's hair, because I don't know whether the character is you're supposed to learn something from the character about his hair, or if they were like, well, we don't have budget for hair and makeup, but it was a hot mess. It looked like someone whose hair who was out on safari hunting graboids, so I guess it's appropriate. Next up, we're going to go to the most valuable performer.
Oh my god.
Which is, I don't mean to laugh, but watch this movie. Babs, who's your MVP?
Well, I think I know who you're going to pick, and so I have to pick a different person than you pick. Because if I know that you're going to pick Burt Gummer, which, he's the most interesting thing about this movie, which is saying a lot. Which is saying a lot.
If he says no, they can't even get this
$2
million film financed.
So, I don't, I wanted to say son of Burt Gummer, perhaps, as my second pick. He's doing a lot of dirt bike riding. You talked about his hair looking kind of like a bedhead situation. He just looks like a 40-year-old person pretending to be 25. I don't know.
The climax of this movie, like you mentioned earlier, is them creating an elaborate electrical trap.
Yeah.
To explode the queen graboid. His hair looked like he was electrocuted at the beginning of the movie, and it just stayed like that the whole time.
I mean, I have so little to say about this movie. This is not an easy podcast for me.
It's definitely one of the most interesting times I've had watching a movie, and mainly because we did it, we watched it with other people via chat room, but we watched it with other people, so I'm not sure. If not that, I probably would have stopped paying attention to it long before.
I would have fallen asleep for sure.
But yes, my MVP is indeed Michael Gross, who plays Burt Gummer. He has been in 6 of these movies, and they're going to stop making Tremors movies when he either dies or is too old.
Wait a minute. When you say going to, they're still making these movies?
There is one that comes out this year, the 7th.
Why?
You seem excited about it.
Oh.
Well, but the whole through line between all the Tremors movies is him. He's the only person that has been in all of them. So, who knows? Maybe we get a Kevin Bacon cameo one day. But I doubt it. They're not getting better. And so, without him, the movie doesn't exist. And without him, the movie doesn't work. So, that's why he's my most valuable, performer.
So it's his fault they're still making these, is what you're saying.
Moving on. We're going to give our rating, and spoiler alert, it is not rewatchable. But, Babs?
I would not advise watching this movie while sober. And I think that if you happen to be in your house and are not able to leave and do other things...
For no reason at all.
For absolutely no reason, then perhaps... you may, and you have gone through all the other content on the internet and Netflix and Disney Plus and everywhere else, and this is the last thing left on the face of this earth for you to watch, then maybe you should watch it.
Or read a book. So my rating is forgettable. It's not, I wouldn't consider it a waste of time because I think there's value in watching it if you've seen all the other Tremors movie or you're a fan of the Burt Gummer character. This is, I think, the best version of him since Tremors 2. In the first Tremors, he doesn't have a lot of screen time, plus he's acting opposite Reba McEntire, who plays his wife. So, like, the first one, not a lot of screen time. The second one is really when he comes into his own, and this is the best version of him since that second. I will say that it's not a waste of time, but it is very forgettable. And I would like to give a very special thank you for using some of your extra content time to listen to this podcast. But if you're thinking it was a waste of your time, remember,
no one asked for this.